Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
I see some familiar faces. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris, Diane,
I think
Teresa.
Chris might be it might be our most frequent flyer.
See.
Few new faces here.
Rachel and Robin. Nice to see you all. Well, we can't see you.
I know, but it feels like we can. Oh yeah, I see Amy. Hi, Amy. And we've got Raymond, who's joined us several times. It's really cool starting to see like some of these folks that it's like we see you every month. It's lovely.
Yay.
Sherry, we've seen you a few times too. So I hope everyone's doing well. This is our first AMA of the new year of 2021. Kath, is it absolutely frigid in Saskatchewan today?
I know it's raining and weird. We're gonna have a really bad storm later or something. So we'll see.
Is it we've had for about 3 or 4 days? Raymond says we're a social life. I'm sorry.
We'll get better.
We've had like this crazy rain dumping off the ocean here in Portland for days. It's been my dogs have been miserable. I've been miserable. It's been rough.
Yeah, we're like rain here. It literally lands and then becomes ice, so it's absolutely treacherous and dangerous. So
yeah, I would not be able to hack it in Canada.
No.
So today we are going to let's see, lots of Portland people in the house today. Woohoo! We are going to talk about contact pages. We threatened to do this last month, and we made it a thing. And we are going to, this month is contact pages. Next month, we're going to be revisiting the subject of Squarespace 7.0 versus 7.1 with the sort of in the light of Kath is in the middle of a big move.
It is big.
How's it going, Kath?
Well, I do an hour a day. So I've been actually working on my blog, which is the biggie.
Yeah.
And then hopefully once that's done, I will focus on remessage, branding, and all that sort of content stuff. But I wanted to leave that to the end. So it's coming. I think I think I will launch when I want to launch, but I might be a few days late. But definitely by the AMA, I should be done.
It's a hard because I did my redesign. I didn't do a move, but I did that redesign back in the fall, and it was so I always say redesigns are a lot harder than brand new websites, and I say that to clients, and that they're a lot more work, and there's just a lot more thinking that you have to do, and I find that is exceedingly true when you're working on your own stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I could probably sit and read and upgrade your site like without, like I could be like, hey, Kath, I've got it.
Yeah.
And it would probably be
No, I'm going to keep my brand, but my writing might be a bit different. So
it's a big job. And your site you've had your site for a long time. And you have a ton of content.
Yeah. And there's just a lot of moving parts. I mean, even some of the old blog posts, I didn't even bother at the time to change the colors of the images to match my new brand. So I've got all that old brand. I don't know.
It's hard. Yeah.
We'll see. So that would be something that we can certainly cover, and I can talk about things that trip me up, because that's always the big worry. Like, is this going to work or not work? Or is this going to end up taking me 5 extra hours? So, things that surprise me.
We're going to talk about next month, even if you were in our previous, I can't remember when we did the 7.1 AMA, probably in August-ish.
Yeah, it was in August.
And but even if you were in that, there will be likely have been new insights just based on Kath. We're going to talk about Kath's experience. We've done a lot more of this kind of stuff for clients. And then there's been new features introduced. So it'll be a good sort of getting oriented, I think.
I'll drop some links in the chat, and then they'll be in the email you send out as well. I'll drop a link to my YouTube playlist, because I am documenting my progress as I go along. And so if people are into that, I'll, you know, they can watch those YouTube videos.
Yeah, they're really interesting. Honestly, I always learn something when you do those, because I have a very specific kind of standard operating procedure, and I tend to kind of get very, you know, kind of tunnel vision on that. And so you often notice things or even get tripped up on things that maybe I wouldn't see. And it's really good then to be able to explain that to clients.
Yeah.
What, you know, what's going on, what they're, you know, it's like, oh, Kath saw that.
Kath had that experience.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a tool I didn't know existed. So I've spent 5 hours on something, and then Sarah says, oh, you could have used this link and it would do it in 2 seconds. So
yeah, that's my specialty.
And I usually do it after the fact. It's like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
All right.
Just
well, I'll let you get started.
Yeah. And so, yeah, just a couple of other things, just a little orientation. If you have questions, there's an ask a question button in your screen. In Crowdcast, I do kind of keep an eye on everything, and Kath does too. So we do try to, you know, if we see that you've just dropped it in the chat, you know, we try to throw that in the ask a question so we can keep track of that. The cool thing of adding it to the ask a question is that then if you come back and you want to, you know, you say you have to leave early and we didn't get to your question, you can come back and find your question and click, and it'll take you right to when we're talking about that question. Yeah, so it's pretty fancy. And then you can also just chit chat in the chat with each other, anything like that. I will talk for a very short period of time. I almost feel like Kath should be doing this particular presentation, because I'm going to be honest, this is a situation where I'm a real hypocrite. This is what I recommend to clients. I have not done this work for myself yet. Have I meant to for a couple of years? Yes. Have I done it yet? No. But it's one of the things I'm committing to do, doing as part of our next week. We're hosting a 5-day challenge that's got 5 mini lessons. And one of the things we're going to talk about is contact pages. I'm going to follow along and do that all for myself, along with everyone who's participating in that. And so hopefully I've set aside the time to do it. I'm going to take some of my own medicine with this. Yeah. Kath, on the other hand, has done all these things and is quite amazing.
I can talk about some of the hiccups as well, though. So
yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit just about some of the principles of contact pages, and then we're going to come back on. You can ask questions. Like I said, if you have links you want to drop in the chat, go right ahead. If your links be like, my contact page is crazy, can you take a peek? And then we're happy to answer your questions. So I'll go through this as quickly as possible. And like I said, if you have to leave, you can come back and watch. This stays up. And we also send out an email to everyone with a YouTube link as well. So Kath, I'm going to boot you off, and I'll see you on the other side.
All right. And the usual, I'll email you if it's not working, but it should be.
All righty, folks. We are going to be talking about contact pages. Like we said last month, I know a lot of you were here last month. This is one of those sneaky little subjects that we often, when we're, you know, any of us, when we're creating a website, and I would say myself included, we often just kind of like, oh, I got to do my contact page, throw up a form, and maybe pick a banner image if we've gotten really fancy with it, and don't do a whole lot. And I can get deep into this. I'm not going to get deep into these principles in this. I just kind of want to give you an overview of some things to think about and have some ideas percolating in your brain. And just give you some food for thought. Like I said, you don't have to do this all. So we're going to talk a little bit about what some of the principles are of, I used the wrong principles. Oh my goodness, you guys. Effective contact pages. We're going to set the stage for communication. That's a really critical concept. Answer questions before they're asked. Kind of ease up on your inbox a little bit. And then we want to ensure that they're not just a silo or a dead end. I'll talk about what all those things mean in just a second, but those are the 3 principles that we think about when we look at a contact page. If I were to audit a website, that is that's the lens I would put on your contact page. So I also want to ask of you, because you may be like, oh my goodness, Sarah, are you really going to talk about contact pages like this? Is to think about your contact pages as a virtual assistant. something that works really tirelessly for you while you're doing more important things or taking a nap. I want you to have a kind of a mindset shift about this, that it is something that can do actual work for you in your business or your organization. I truly believe that websites are tools. They're not art projects. They are a tool, and they are intended to really make your life easier. They should be answering questions. They should be just working hard for you so you don't have to be doing all that tedious work. I know many of us are just crunched for time, so your website should be really, really taking some of that off of your plate. So communication is probably one of the most important things that your contact page can do for you. And when I say contact pages, I mean both your page itself and your form. I'm kind of going to mush those two together when I talk about them. Just assume that I may be talking about the form as well. But one of the things that's really crucial that you can do with your contact page is set the precedent for your communication methods and style. So I will tell you, this is my own personal experience. Everything in my life, basically in my business, runs through a CRM, so a customer relationship management tool. And everything in my contact page needs to get into that, or else it's like it didn't happen. So I have a very specific and strict way that contacts with me or with our company have to go into our system. And so I am on the rigid side of this. On the other hand, I have clients who are on the much more flexible side of this. And it's a spectrum, and it really is all about you understanding your capacity as a business, understanding your own communication style. So I would be in the sort of this more rigid model. I use set forms and a CRM with set processes. My contact page is that way. You can't just text me and I'll text you back. On the other hand, like I said, I have a client who's a piano technician. She's amazing. And she actually wants people, she would prefer people do just text her because that's the way she communicates with people. And that's a real advantage for her because her competitors don't offer that option. So, but that's got to be really connected to your working style, not just don't let other people drive the bus with that, because that's where you get mismatch in terms of clients and customers. Are you overwhelmed with unqualified inquiries? So unqualified can mean lots of things. That can mean someone who can't afford you. That may mean someone who is from an industry you don't serve. That may be someone who maybe has a working style that's not going to mesh with you. If you are getting that consistently, that's when I would sit down and I would take a look at the actual form fields on your contact form. I would even take that so far as if you're getting a lot of spam submissions, you make that form a little harder. Also, one of the things that's very important is to literally explain how quickly you respond. You don't want people to think that their inquiry has gone into the ether. That sucks. But also you want to ensure that you aren't, say you are working on a reduced schedule because you have your kids doing virtual learning. Update that contact form to say, hey, we respond within 48 to 72 hours, or 2 to 3 working days, something like. You want to ensure that people know that, but it also will help them understand that if they're working with you, it may also not be that instantaneous response. I actually have a lot of feelings about instantaneous responses not necessarily being good marketing, but we can talk about that another time. Also, another thing to think about is there are alternative contact tools. Things like Voxer. Video Ask is a really interesting thing where someone can literally send you a video chat and you can respond with video chat. I've been experimenting with that myself. It's kind of an interesting, I can't get people to use it, but I think it's something that might be the future. Maybe you want to have an interactive FAQ on your contact page if you have more of a self-service approach. So making sure that this is all aligned with your communication style and what people can expect when you actually work with them. Because if you have a disconnect, if you have people work with you and they inquire and you're, super instantaneous and you respond to a text message, and then when you actually go to work with them on, like, say, a paying project, and you're asking them to fill out forms and you're taking, you know, it's 2 days to get back to them, there's a huge disconnect, and what that leads to is unhappiness. All right, questions and answer questions. This may seem super obvious, but it's something that a lot of contact pages miss. So make sure that your contact page is an admin assistant that is saving you valuable time. How many of us have spent time answering questions? You're like, this is literally on my website. But they maybe didn't see that FAQ page that's hidden down in the footer. But you know, you can get ahead of that by, for example, your forms can indicate pricing ranges for your services or your products. So if you have a dropdown that says, I am interested in XYZ, and X has a price range, Y has a price range, Z has a price range. Now, I can hear people like, but I don't want to put pricing on my website. I don't know what to tell you. I have data that backs up the pricing on websites helps actually convert people into buyers. So you can create automations letting people know what's next after they submit an inquiry, or direct them to something like a booking link via Acuity or Calendly or Book Like a Boss, or even a resource guide. We've seen some people do some really cool things where someone submits a contact form, they get forwarded to a thank you page, and it says, hey, your inquiry has been received. While you wait for us to review your information, you can download our services guide, and it has a whole catalog of how people can work with them. So that's, again, that's that nice, like, so by the time you actually talk to the person, hopefully they're pretty informed and educated. If you are an artist, an author, a speaker, basically someone with an agent, we work with a lot of these types of folks. Make sure that you're not encouraging questions that are actually more appropriately handled by someone who's not you. Make your agent's contact info prominent. Say, hey, don't reach out to me for speaking inquiries. Talk to my speaking agent. You know, and think about using a CRM like Dubsado. That's what I use, but there's lots of them. And implementing even a workflow automation. For us, for example, when people do a web design inquiry, what happens is someone submits the form. I get some crucial information. Because I do limit my time on email each day, I'm going to be able to get back to them right away. But what Dubsado does is it sends them a, hey, thanks for getting in touch. Here's a link to a customized page with all the information you requested. So that includes things like pricing, process, the steps, all of that stuff. And people love that they get that, because they don't have to wait. If they are, you know, sending out inquiries on a Saturday, they don't have to wait till Monday to review all that info. Buy yourself time, folks. So I want to also say that this precise tactics, so this is tactical, this is not strategic, are less important than the strategy. Spend some time, think about what you can do to make sure that all of your forms and your contact pages are carrying some of the load for you and in your specific circumstances. So it may be that you completely transform the quality of your leads by simply adding pricing information to your contact form, or by linking to an FAQ page. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do that can actually take some of those annoying admin tasks that you're doing that don't actually need to be handled by you off of your plate. And last but not least, one of my favorite subjects, and I will say this if we talk about just about any page on your website, except for maybe your privacy policy, let's get rid of those dead ends. A dead end is really where when someone gets to that point, there is nothing else for someone to do aside from using the back button on their browser. Contact pages often have high bounce rates and low conversion rates. So bounce means someone hits it and goes away. Conversion means someone actually takes action. And so what you have, if you have a contact page that's dead end, you have people just closing their browser tab, and you also have people not filling out a form. That's bad. There are some people who think that squeeze pages are really great. So pages where there isn't anywhere to go. I actually think that's BS, and I will die on that hill. Fight me. And we want that. What we do instead is create a comfortable, natural progression and give people a couple of carefully selected choices. So don't make that contact page the end. Sometimes people are looking at contact pages because they want to find out what information they need to have gathered before they reach out. Maybe they have a non-sales question. So maybe they're like, hey, I see that you talked about X, Y, and Z, and I'm interested in booking you on my podcast. So that's something just to keep in mind. My contact page, actually, I have an inquiry page, and then I have another page that's actually linked on my contact page that says, hey, do you have just a question or a quick inquiry? Click here, and it takes them over to my quick, hey, just send me a quick note. And people do use that. And it's actually kind of interesting. I've never had someone use it who's trying to bypass the actual project inquiry form. It's for other stuff. You can link to other important pages, like an FAQ is a great one. If you have a signature service, you might want to kick people back to that to review more detailed information. You can literally say in your text, before you send an inquiry, make sure you've checked out our super cool service, so that you have all the information before you send us a note, possibly your bio. Maybe you want to invite people to connect beyond just sending a message. So I encourage people all over my website to sign up for my newsletter. Maybe you have a great blog. That's a really good place to include a blog feed. You can do that in Squarespace or WordPress or just about any website tool. Maybe you're a big Instagrammer. You might want to include your Instagram feed on your contact page. Basically, remember that people want to get to know you. And so that contact page, again, to avoid it being a dead end, is make it feel engaging and like you are actually connecting, not just that passive contact. Alrighty, like I said, I kept it as short as I possibly could. Really looking forward to chatting with you all and answering any questions you have about this super exciting topic of contact pages. I'm going to invite Kath back. Well, we've got a bunch of people live today. This is really great. Usually we get a lot of people sign up, but a lot of people watch the replay. Sorry, I just saw the count. That's
awesome.
Yeah, about I would say close to over 2/3 of people who registered are actually live right now.
Yay!
That's really cool.
Awesome. We could do a whole thing on how sending out a last-minute email seems to work really well.
It really does. Honestly, it's so funny. I think that's, especially given how people are a little bit stressed out at the moment. I think sometimes being like, you know what, I do have an hour this morning.
Yeah. So it looks like we have a few questions. And Sarah, that was a great, that was great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna include some of that in our in our workshop.
I think that should be I think that's day 3 or 4 in the website boost challenge.
It'll be better than that, and there'll be some accompanying materials. But you got.
Well, I was gonna do that one. I'm like, maybe you should do that one. That's not fair.
It's a little sneak peek for our challenge next week, because I actually ended up my outline got really long because there's so much about. I could literally do an hour-long workshop that was just me talking about contact pages with some really great examples, because they can really be powerful. It's cool.
Yeah.
So
I'll put some links while you're answering questions.
Yeah, so I'm going to just start at the top. I'm going to...
You want me to read out the questions?
Yeah, you want to start with Diane's?
Yeah, so Diane asked, would you ever use an external app for the content block? I'm assuming this might be like a Squarespace one. So if so, or I guess anyone. If so, any recommendations?
Yes. So I personally use... my forms are all called from an application called Dubsado. There are other ones. There's Honeybook is a big one. Gosh, trying to think. I know people use Typeform is really popular. I have a friend who uses that because it has what's called conditional logic, where if someone answers X in X way, it gives them it basically gives them other questions. Here's, I'm going to drop a link. And I'm going to say the link that I'm adding to the chat. If you do sign up for Dubsado, it gives you a discount if you use my link.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you, Sarah.
So I'm like, well, you might as well get the discount. So another one is HoneyBook.
One too. I'm gonna go grab that one. She's using a new form. I'll get that form. But yeah, keep going.
HoneyBook is another one. And what I would say is it really depends on what your needs are and if what you're doing in terms of your overall business systems to streamline some of that admin work. So mine, I can speak to my own business pretty effectively, hopefully. And so the reason all of my forms are hosted basically by Dubsado is if someone submits a form, a few things happen in the back end. One, it organizes them according to the kind of inquiry they are. So I can easily find everyone who's inquired about specific things. Two, it starts a client record for that person. We a lot of times have someone, we literally had this happen. I had someone inquire about a project last April. We did a call to chat about their project. I ended up recommending that they go work with one of my favorite brand designers first. She had to wait to get on that person's calendar several months. And that happened this fall. And so now in January, she is going to be doing a website with us. So that's almost a year from the initial conversation to the actual work with her. And so what I've been able to do is I can go into her record and see we talked in April. Here's what we talked about. Here was her original form that she submitted. Here's her updated form. So I can see everything. And now that we're working together, I also have, what her form about, her website project. So everything is contained in one place. And so I'm not doing that awful system where I'm searching through my email.
Yeah.
When we were smaller, when I was maybe only working with one or two clients at once, that didn't seem like such an important thing. Now I cannot imagine going back. The person who used, I mentioned who used Typeform really liked it because the way their services work, different answers to questions actually necessitate other specific questions. And so to get really good information, they needed that conditional logic. So it really depends on what your circumstances are and how much information you're getting up front. At this point in my career, I really need a lot of information up front. Kathy, you have a very simple approach to your contact forms, I would say.
Yeah, I have a simple approach. I use Squarespace and I don't need anyone to upload anything. That's another biggie, right? I don't know if you mentioned that because I was looking for links.
That's one I didn't.
If you want people to upload, let's say a brand style guide or I don't know. I'm trying to think of other businesses.
There's another thing, like if you are, say, working a lot with the public sector or like sort of large nonprofits, I know like Chris from Boss Display probably has this happen a lot where someone needs to upload an RFP, request for proposals. You will need to have the option to have some kind of uploader. So that means you may need to use a CRM or even there's some Google Forms hacks you can use to add files. But most of the standard forms don't allow you to add files.
Yeah.
So there's lots of things like that.
You gotta write a list of all the things you want the person that's filling in the form to do, and then find that. And most tools, like for Squarespace, if it's just basic information, that's all you really need, and just then stick with that. But otherwise, like.
And I will say the other thing is if you are using whatever your website programs forms are, yeah, Chris said yes, so many RFPs. The thing to remember is if you are using an out of the box tool, like if you're on Squarespace and you're using Squarespace Forms or using like Contact Form 7, which is the big WordPress tool, make sure that there's also a backup storage method. So most people use Google Sheets. And that's because sometimes when those things pass through websites, sometimes there are failures for a variety of reasons. And not having that storage there is bad.
Yeah, then you don't know if someone contacted you or not. So,
and you might not realize if you're not getting, 20 emails a day, like if you only get a couple of inquiries a week, which is totally fine. I 100% have no issue with people having a low level of inquiries if they're the right ones. You may not notice for a week or two that like, oh, weird, no one's reached out to me through my website. And all of a sudden what you find out is that your form had a problem. And it sucks. So,
yeah. All right, next question. So my name is Joanne and I'm a portrait photographer. I built my site last year with version 7.1. Love it. However, after attending a class with an SEO professional, she says that the homepage is not SEO friendly as it has no text, only pictures. Sarah's gonna.
Gotta add some pictures, man.
I chose Salva. I guess that's the name of the 7.1 design. However, I love that style. How can I improve without redoing my whole website? Should I choose a homepage from another template?
Just honestly, if you're using 7.1, do add, say, an intro with some text, add a section at the bottom with some text.
A testimonial with some text.
Testimonials can be very keyword rich. And then also go in, I mean, this isn't really germane to our topic today, but this is my other little bit of advice. Think about what you can do that's not your homepage to add content to your website. So, the easiest for a lot of people is creating a blog. So start documenting your work via a blog, stuff like that.
Because, I mean, in my own case, people find me through my blog. So they land on my blog post and then move around my website. I very rarely get found unless someone's doing a branded search, which means my name.
They're looking for you.
Yeah, like if someone types in Squarespace website designer, I'm not on page 1.
Yeah, and me, 24% of my website traffic comes from a single blog post.
Oh. There you go.
So, I mean, just keep in mind, it's not all about the homepage. And that's also come back to our conversation. That's why sometimes it can also be worthwhile to, for example, add an FAQ to your contact page. If you have thin content, like if you have, say, a portfolio site and you have thin content on the rest, so thin means just not a lot of words on your site, and you go and beef up your contact page to actually be a functional page where it says, has your contact form, then it also maybe has a really good detailed FAQ about your services, maybe some pricing information, stuff like that. So it's got a good word count that can actually help mitigate some of those problems. So again, this is actually a solvable problem. And the thing we're talking about today is pretty relevant to it. It's actually a trick I've encouraged clients, especially when I've looked at their content and I've seen, oh, you have this little tiny FAQ page and you have this little tiny pricing page, and then you have your contact page. Let's just take those three and mush them together and make it one really strong page.
I just added some of the information to the chat there. All right. Many of these suggestions are great, but seem functional. How important is the design of the page, of the contact page, or having it be flashy?
So I think by the time someone has gotten to your contact page, hopefully they have bought into. So if they've been inspired to click contact, whether it's because it's like, oh, what info do I need to get together first, or what have you, by the time they've gotten to that, you have sold them at least to enough to click that connect with me button. So at that point, what they really want is pretty factual information. Now, that doesn't mean that your contact page can't look cool. And we've done some pretty cool looking contact pages, Kath. I mean, I would say, but what it means, because they look cool because they're aligned with the brand, they have nice visuals, they have good typography, all of that is connected to the overall site. But you don't need to make, and in fact, I have been on contact pages that I found stressful because there's just so much happening. And I won't name any names, but
yeah, I think being informational is more important than flashy. Like if I go on a contact page, and then I want to know what to do.
At that point, I've made a decision of a varying degree, but I have reached that decision point. Kath I'm going to put Kath's, because I think your contact page is really nice and really friendly. Yeah.
I actually, ever since I said I don't do tech support, I think it says that. I'm hardly getting any leads, which is fine because I'm trying to change all that anyway. But it did work. I can say that my choice to get rid of, to be very clear that I don't do Squarespace tech support and to contact Squarespace directly has worked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the thing. And this is where, and this was, you know, I really started thinking about contact pages a while back when I think I was listening to a podcast or something. And the person on the podcast said, well, I get 800 leads a week. Or was it a month? I can't remember. Either one sounds like a nightmare.
Sorry, it was a month. Yeah.
Yeah. 800. The person said I get 800 leads a month. And I was like, and I know this is a solo person who is just one person. And I was like, that is my nightmare. Like literally that is my nightmare. And the person was arguing, well, you need to be really accessible so that you get lots of leads. And I'm like, again, this is my nightmare. I would literally do nothing because I try to always be the one who replies to inquiries. I would do nothing but answer emails. And so what you've done, Kath, you may be getting fewer leads, but I can tell you there's more clicks from your site to the sales pages on my site.
That was one of the goals because that
was one of the goals.
Intake for
you were getting leads for work that you don't do, and that's just, I mean, that's not good. You can't help someone, and so that's also a crappy feeling as well. You want to be able to have anyone who reaches out to you be someone you can actually help.
Yeah.
So
those are things to experiment with because, you know, at first it's sort of kind of a scary feeling, but ultimately what I want at this stage, because I'm re-messaging and redoing everything anyway, is if they're interested in Design a Day, go to Sarah because she does all the intake. And if they are interested in DIYing and just want to then sign up for my newsletter, that's it. Right. Yeah. And back in the summer, I'll be honest, I got a very difficult message from someone who was mad that I charged for helping with tech stuff, right? Or not, well, with Squarespace. And I had a training thing and they didn't want to do it and didn't want to pay the rate and all of that. And I just was like, I can't take these leads anymore. Like it's not fair to them. They need to find someone who can help them. And it's not fair to me to kind of put up with that. I don't want to call it abuse, but it was pretty nasty.
No, but it's not kind to anyone in the relationship.
No. And I gave lots of suggestions of where she could find, you know, the support that she was looking for. But in the end, I was like, I can't take these leads anymore. Like, I don't mean I can't take it anymore. I mean, I don't want these people.
It's not helpful.
No. So that's why I very clearly said tech support, Squarespace, and it's free.
This is why I used to have Drift on my, which is a chat where someone can just like leave a chat message.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because people were talking to me, but the bad side of it was was almost universally people who really needed to be contacting tech support for Squarespace, for their web host, for their G Suite. These were not the having that chat. While it was very effective in starting a conversation, it was generally people who were in a very like kind of crisis mode, like something is broken and I can't help people and so it was just not. And so I felt badly. I mean, I would send them resources and direct them as to what to ask, you know, whomever they needed to ask the question of, but it wasn't good for them to be wasting time on chat with me when I was like, haha, guess what? Unfortunately, I can't help you. So I took that off my website.
Both of these situations are a really important point because like in our cases, we're not tech support and it is a waste of time for people. And I think a lot of times you get encouraged to, you know, sign up for this option or this chat thing. And if you're not getting the right kind of leads, then it's not worth having. It's just,
then it's not
for you and for them. So
it's just not. And I just, it's hard. I mean, it is hard. And I always feel like such a,
meanie.
I don't know.
All right, next question.
So let me click done. Deborah asked, I love the side effects. What program do you use? I have broken up with Google Slides, and it feels really good.
And she was like, "You've got to get on Canva." I resisted, and I finally did it. What a difference!
I use Canva.
Yeah.
I'm dropping the link. If you do sign up for Canva, use my link. I think it gives you like a 45-day pro trial. It used to take me literally like a day to make a slideshow because it's just not in my skill set. And now I can just whack them out, like, because all my brand is stored in it. So I just do click, 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 and all my files are stored, and I do click, 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 and it's like magic.
It's just putting in the words now.
It's literally just putting in the words.
And because I use Sarah's branding, yay!
It's changed my life. I should do a newsletter about this because, when I was talking about buying yourself time, every month when we go to do our member workshop, I would have this huge stress like a week before.
Yes, Erica.
Because I had to do my Google Slides, and I don't know why Google Slides took me so long, but it would take, and it felt like I was starting from scratch every single time. And I don't know if I had bad workflow or what, but it was awful. And then I started playing around with Canva on the recommendation of Olivia from Let's Go Studio, and because she's kind of the Canva gal. And
I'll pop her thing in.
Yeah, pop her link in there. And it like changed my life. And so now I have fun. I wasn't doing these presentations for these AMAs because they would take me so much time to do. So
I'll put her course in there.
Deborah said, I think it's the future too. I've had one of those apps and I only have two. So that we're talking about like Video Ask and Voxer and those kinds of tools. I really think that people are going to want to, Video Ask, I don't think people are using it yet, but I think the tools like that are going to be, especially that Video Ask, there's something with it that, and Kath, you can, if you would drop the Video Ask link in there. Yeah. Because I think that we start to feel very disconnected, and there's something with being able to make a connect, like that visual connection is really powerful. I know Kath and I use Loom a lot to communicate with each other and with clients, which is just a quick screen recording thing. People love that kind of personalized, here's the answer to your question in a video format. So I think it's the future as well. Just that kind of communication. It's just not widely adopted yet.
I might experiment with it this year. I just haven't decided yet. I like the concept of, just people being able to ask a question, and
I like that it's like a slightly more work than like the chat, which really does feel like tech support.
Yeah.
So you can even do like immersive FAQs with that particular tool, which is something I've thought about doing. But I haven't had a chance to. So I like to do I really believe in experimenting. Most of our audience are, solo businesses or small organizations or people who are doing something kind of cutting edge or different. And I think if you are one of those people embracing experimental communication methods and things like that can really show that you're not afraid of being the first, and for the right audience, that's very appealing.
Mm-hmm. I also think, listening to what people who you work with say to you about how they felt contacting you, they'll tell you stuff.
They tell you stuff if you listen to even what they're not saying, or if they tell you like something they were frustrated about, not related to what you're doing. Mm-hmm. All of that can be really good recon, and so you can improve your communications.
Yeah. So next question from Sherry is, should contact pages and other static pages be hidden so as not to impact SEO?
It depends on the site, frankly. If your contact page has really good info on it, like if you included an FAQ on your contact page, if you have some good testimonials on your contact page, that kind of thing, I would not make it no index for your SEO. If your contact page is just a simple form, it's probably not doing you any good in terms of SEO. It's probably not harming you either, but I would probably make it no indexed. It's a judgment call on a case-by-case basis. Here's
one with some information. And Olivia, who does the Canva Crash course, her contact page has a lot of information on it.
Yeah,
as well.
and I will say with my own contact pages, my primary inquiry page is indexed. I have a lot of other inquiry pages that are for specific things, and those are no indexed. So again, because I don't want those to show up in Google, and they're not going to help me anyway. So,
yeah.
And actually, in the Google subject, don't forget that if you're using a third-party tool like a Dubsado, the form itself will not be scanned by Google. So you'll want to beef up the verbiage if you are using it as part of your search strategy.
Oh, what about like if you're using something that's integrated as part of the web platform? Is that too?
That typically is indexed.
That is indexed. Oh, okay. So
typically.
Like Squarespace.
But there's 8 million variables.
Oh, okay. Variable number 1 million.
So yeah, I mean, general. It depends. It really depends. So.
Here's another question from Dana. I've been looking into Dubsado for streamlining leads from my contact form. It's a little overwhelming. Any tips for getting started?
Yes. And this is, I can actually, this, if you're doing any kind of CRM that's going to add some automations to your business, you can just insert that CRM's name in what I'm saying. So what I would recommend is really doing a few things. First of all, sit down and list out all the things you do. Like literally take an inventory, which might terrify you, because I know when I did this, it was a real wake-up call for me that we needed to streamline and pare down the things that we offer, because it was ridiculous, frankly. But do that and start putting those things in kind of big buckets. So in my case, it was ultimately web design, consulting, and search. Those were the biggies. And start thinking, and then reverse engineer backwards. So start at the end where, from when someone becomes a client back to when they send that initial inquiry. What information do they need, or what information do you need? So kind of just really draw out what that intake flow looks like. I find it's a lot easier to start at the end than at the beginning, to be honest.
So like they're a client here.
And yeah, they're a client here.
Before they become a client, they've paid their invoice. Before that, they've signed the contract. Before that, this email.
You've had a call maybe.
Or they had
Before that, you've gotten like an initial inquiry. So you kind of do that backwards. And so what you can actually do is, and I'm actually in the process of cleaning up my Dubsado right now, because like I said, I had too many things. And so what I did is I made all of my forms, and in Dubsado there's a thing called a proposal, but it basically what it is, I think almost like a it's basically the thing that kicks off someone signing a contract, paying you, all of that. And so what I have, the way I have it set up is someone sends an inquiry. Based on the option they select, they get an automated proposal sent to them. They cannot pay or sign a contract, even if they want to sign off on the proposal, until I've looked at their inquiry and most likely talked to them. Those kinds of things, but they have that in their hot hands. So they can see like, this is how much, it's like they're like, this is how much I'm going to be investing. This is, this is the next step. So they can see, so they have as much as they can have in their hands without talking to me first. So I really try to front load that information. And I recently redid all my proposals and put more of the stuff related to here's how the process works. And so far the reception has been pretty positive. I use it less for the actual, once someone is a client, I've pared down a lot what they use. And a lot of the stuff I use Dubsado for in terms of when they're clients is actually more like reminders, like add client to content gathering course, like pay Kath. Like You know, it is these sort of like little, it's, you know, send reminder email to client. But I put a lot of those canned emails are also stored in that system. So all I have to do is click the button and send it to the client. Just because I want to make sure that I don't want to automate it too much, simply because we've pared down our offerings enough to where I can actually kind of take back some of that time that I had to automate and be a little more personalized. So,
and part of that too is because we work together, and I'm not, even though I have access as a team member in Dubsado, I use my own email for some of the client conversation, and sometimes that can affect.
Yeah, I want to make sure Kath hasn't like.
And time zones. Time zones were a big problem too.
But I really just start out by reverse engineering your intake process. It will change your life once you have it sorted out, and you will screw it up at first. And don't be afraid to screw it up.
Yeah, that's gonna. And also, I'm gonna say, I always say this: bug whatever CRM you use. So if it's Dubsado, bug them, ask them for all the help, and if you have to hire someone,
do it.
Work out in your mind how much your time is worth and how much time they'll save you, and decide whether or not.
If I could go back in time, I would have hired someone to do my initial setup, to be quite honest.
Unfortunately, I don't know anyone who does Dubsado.
I do.
But I think if you start, like Sarah recommends, like just really thinking about what it is exactly you need, and then asking Dubsado tons of questions.
And Cameron does one-on-one calls for new customers.
Oh, okay. I don't know her.
Him.
Sorry. I don't know him.
Yeah, he works for Dubsado, and he does one-on-one calls for new customers.
Oh, okay. So you could do like a sales call or
literally like walk through your setup.
Oh, well, there, and is that free as part of the? There you go, Cameron. Cameron from Dubsado will help you.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons I recommend Dubsado a lot, is because they do have a lot of one-on-one support for customers, and I think that's really important. And also because I really like to support bootstrapped tech companies versus ones that are taking on lots of investors. Bootstrapping a tech company is not a cheap or easy endeavor, but it also ensures that they'll be there for their customers in the long haul.
Yeah.
I have a lot of opinions.
And I posted a couple. We had a question from Joanna. I think it was, could you share an example of efficient contact page? I've put a couple in, like I put Let's Go Studios contact. And I always talk about Kate Pugsley's contact.
I love Kate Pugsley's contact page.
And I think she's changed it recently. It looks different from before. But she does talk about herself and has a whole list of all the people. It's just so simple and clear. And this is who you contact for surface patterns. And this is because she does all sorts of art. I don't know. I really like her site.
Well, and you'll notice Kate's contact form. We don't know Kate.
We don't know her at all. Just okay. I know her art. I know her art from around me. From kids' books. I'm like, that's her.
Kate's contact form with contact page. What's interesting is you'll see that she actually does not have a form on her contact page.
Yeah.
And so that's something to keep in mind too, is you don't have to have a form. So, you know, if
here's one of our,
I really liked Eileen. That was the one I was looking for the link. I liked Eileen's. It was very simple but she has, what she's really trying to encourage people to do is invite her to her book club or to their book clubs, because she can do virtual book club visits. And for authors, that's a really good way to get yourself in front of readers and to build a relationship with readers.
And then another client we had, Kim Todd, is also an author. We've had a few authors in the last few months. She has very clearly, for media inquiries, you contact this person. So that's really important. If you have other people,
if you're a speaker or an expert or someone like that who has someone who handles your bookings, basically, don't do their job for them. One, you might be screwing them up.
Don't hold back, Sarah.
Like, honestly, like they might be like, what is she saying? And secondly, you know, you're just adding more work to their, you know, to yourself. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Remember, it's like your virtual assistant, like you said, like it's.
And I really, this is, I know we're basically out of time, but this is my last thing I want to say is the whole reason of trying to streamline and buy yourself time is so many of us end up having our days ruled by our inbox. Like, and that is not that, what that does is that puts you in reaction mode instead of proaction mode. And so you spend your whole day reacting to what's coming in your inbox. And then at the end of the week, you're like, I haven't gotten anything done. It's because you spent the whole week reacting to your inbox. And that is a really toxic cycle, and it's really hard to break. So your contact page is that first line of defense to help get out of that habit. And I know that habit, and I know how kind of toxic it can be. And so that's my little pep talk for you is you don't want to react, to have everything in your day be reacting to what's coming into your email. And if you can have systems that help get ahead of that, it will improve your workflow. You will be able to take time to write a blog post that'll bring in the right clients. Yeah. You can take time to then write a weekly newsletter. It's not so scary. You can take time to do a great lead magnet for that client that you know is out there and you just haven't been able to create that thing. So if you can use your contact page to improve your efficiencies and create time to appropriately market your business to your ideal clients, it will pay off in spades.
I have nothing more to say. I did add another link right there, and we will collect all the links and send it out to you, but I added another link. I wrote a blog post a while ago on comparing contact forms versus emails and which is better. So you can have a read through that as well.
Oh yeah, that's a great resource. So yeah, thank you all for joining us. Look for email from me later today. And like I said, there's a link, there's a doodad. I'll send out the link also in the newsletter. There's also next week we're hosting a 5-day challenge. It's going to have 5 videos of things to do, basically,
including your contact page.
And it also includes like a Slack channel so you can chat with us. So it's a pretty cool little thing where we like to do experiments, and this is one of our experiments. So yeah, so we'd love for you to join us if you are feeling like you want to devote some headspace next week to working on your website. All right, guys.
All right.
See you next month, hopefully.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.